Hello, and welcome to Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by Direct Selling News, where host Wayne Moorehead interviews the channel's leading corporate executives to provide timely insights and relevant takeaways to help grow and evolve your businesses. In today's episode, Wayne is joined by Travis Garza, President of Sales and Marketing at Plexus Worldwide. When Plexus was founded in 2006, it offered a single product, a breast self-examination kit. But 2 years later, CEO Tarl Robinson bought the company and reinvented it as a leader in the health and wellness space. Today, Plexus Worldwide offers products in 3 verticals: weight loss, nutrition, and personal care, and was a finalist earlier this year in the Better Business Bureau's Torch Awards for Ethics. In 2021, Plexus ranked 28th on the DSN Global 100 list with $509 million in revenue. And it is also a 4-time honoree of the best places to work in direct selling. In 2020, direct selling veteran Travis Garza joined Plexus as a president of sales and marketing. Bringing more than 20 years of sales and marketing experience to the table, he remains focused on implementing new strategies and tools to help teams achieve their personal and professional goals. Today on Direct Approach, Travis and Wayne look at how the way people shop and communicate has changed in the digital age and what that continues to mean for direct selling customers. They also talk about how the language of direct selling has changed, how technology has extended the industry's reach, and the importance of using data properly to create a more consumer-centric experience. But before we get into the interview, we want to remind you about our hybrid DSN events taking place Tuesday, April 19th through Thursday, April 21st at the Omni Hotel in Frisco, Texas. The in-person events are open to all direct selling corporate executives. The events begin Tuesday evening, April 19th, with the 13th annual DSN Global Celebration, where we'll recognize and celebrate the outstanding achievements of companies and individual executive leaders within the channel. And we'll also unveil the much-anticipated Global 100 list for 2022. To attend the Global Celebration in person, purchase tickets at dsu2022.com. If you're not available to attend in person, you can still be a part of the celebrations by watching the live stream broadcast that evening on directsellingnews.com. Then, on Wednesday, April 20th and Thursday, April 21st, we will have our DSU Direct Selling University event. 2 value-packed days with 35 industry legends, experts, and new speakers who will share their stories, learnings, and insights with you. DSU is exclusively for active corporate executives, and of course, we are excited to return to the in-person networking, energy, and momentum that only happens at an in-person event. If you've already attended a DSU event in the past, then you know how important learning and growing together as a community is for your business and the channel as a whole. DSU is free for both in-person and virtual attendance. Register today at dsu2022.com. We also want to thank this episode's sponsor and DSN Premier Supplier sponsor, Exego. In an industry that demands adaptability, Exego delivers unrivaled access to the data that drives your business, from CRM to transactions to commissions. Flexible, scalable, and powerful, with Exego, the possibilities are unlimited. Learn more at exego.com. That is EXIGO.com. And now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, Travis Garza, President of Sales and Marketing at Plexus Worldwide.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. As always, I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today I'm very excited to be joined by the President of Sales and Marketing at Plexus, Travis Garza. Travis, welcome to the Direct Approach.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wayne. I've listened to some of the other podcasts and excited and a little bit nervous, to be honest, speaking with you today, but I know there's so much that we can cover and learn from these podcasts.
No, I'm really excited to learn from you for all your great experience. You know, you and I do go way back. We came close to working together a couple times. The stars never quite aligned. But through the process, the silver lining for me was getting to know you more. And I've really enjoyed, our connection and conversation over the years. So it's meant a lot to me. And I'm excited to dig in today.
Yeah. Well, it's good, Wayne, and clearly I think this industry, and I'm so glad that you're doing this podcast, because really this industry is small. It's big, but it's small, and a lot of people get to know each other. And we're in the network, the direct sales, however you want to call it. And that's exactly what you're doing here today. So thank you for what you're doing in this podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Again, it's just an opportunity, I think, for all of us to learn. And, as we all know, anyone that's spent enough time in the direct selling channel, what's good for one is really good for all. So we're all really in the same boat. And so I love learning and sharing. It is the most collaborative channel I've ever seen. The competitors can sit side by side and share best practices. I know that wouldn't happen with Coke and Pepsi or some other CPG brands, but I'm glad that we're different and we get to do it our way.
Well, I have to be honest, and I know that we have a number of listeners, but I surely have tried to have Wayne work with us in the companies that I've been with, because of your marketing ability and what you've done with both in the channel and then outside the channel. So I think we can all learn from these experiences for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I'm going to learn a lot today. I know we all are. You're at Plexus, which is a company I love, that I've had my eye on for a long time. Tarl, the founder and CEO, has really done an amazing job leading that company through a lot of different cycles, a lot of different shifts in the channel. Obviously, that's not where you started your career. I don't think you've been there 20 or 25 years. So do you mind telling us a little bit about the path that led you into direct selling? And then also just take a moment, for those that don't know Plexus very well, a little bit about who Plexus is.
In this industry, I started in really in 1989, really. And I was running a call center with a friend of mine. We started this small little call center in Southeast Idaho. And our job was, back then, it was telemarketing. It was just, we sold for companies like HBO and DirecTV and Dish. And so we were constantly going like crazy with telemarketing, and we did some inbound customer service calls. And so we were having a lot of success, Wayne. We really, truly, we went from 14 employees to over 500 in the call center space, and we were doing really well. We thought we were doing well. And then ironically, we ran into a challenge like everybody else. September 11th, 2001.
Wow. Okay.
New York, when the World Trade Centers were hit, everybody in New York and everybody around the world were figuring out what they were going to do. And ironically, HBO said, "Hey, listen, we're going to halt your contract," which was it was a big percentage of our business. And we decided that we were going to, we didn't know what we were going to do. And HBO decided they were going to outsource to offshore call centers to do the work. And we didn't know what to do. Well, being in a small community like that in Southeast Idaho, we decided that we were going to send some resumes out to some local companies. And we decided, hey, let's see who's hiring out there. And the company that was hiring at that time was a company called Melaleuca. And I remember, I had dabbled as an independent business builder building in Melaleuca, and I rose very quickly and I fell just as fast because I didn't know what I was doing. But I sent some resumes of people that were out of jobs over there, and they were taking them on. Well, literally, Wayne, within a few weeks, Frank Vandersloot, the owner and the senior vice president of sales at the time, called and said, "Hey, we would like to talk with you about working at Melaleuca." And I said, "I'm not interested." And they said, "Well, we would like to talk with you." And I said, "You don't understand, I'm okay." And I said, why are you calling me? I was sending you resumes of people that work with me, and why me?" And they said, anyone, and this is what they said, "anyone who cares enough about people like you do right now deserves to be in direct sales." And that was in 2001. And I was so taken back, and, just understanding more about the channel and seeing what they were doing. And they were hiring when people were being let go. They were pushing forward, and I'm hearing more about this channel. I decided to join, and that was the kickoff. That was back in 2000, really, 2001. That's when I really kicked off, and I started in this channel, and it's been great. I worked at Melaleuca over at a company called Isogenics, and then Kyani, and then we, here at Plexus. And here at Plexus, I have to tell you, Plexus, opened its doors in 2008. And I've known Tarl for about 8-9 years now. And we talk about being in an industry where we get connected. I met Tarl at a DSU event, and I think it was something else. We met at a DSU event, and I was speaking on stage, and we connected afterwards, and we said, "Hey, can we stay in touch?" And he really meant it, Wayne. He really meant it. And so every year, once or twice a year, we were having lunch, we were having dinner, and we connected and talked about strategy, talked about things that were going on and the changes in the industry. And, when the opportunity came, he said, "Listen, I want you here, and I want you to help run our sales and marketing and help us with some things that we're going through." And in 2020, I made the jump over here, and it's been a journey and a lot of learnings. I mean, especially over the last 2 years, my gosh, it's been a lot of learnings, and it's been a great run over here at Plexus.
Absolutely. It's been a lot of learnings for all of us. And I know that's something that we're going to dig into a little bit with all of the shifts and the changes that have happened in the channel. I'm going to jump back. I didn't know that you were an independent business owner, that you spent some time in the field. I think that's incredible.
Yeah.
I love that. I didn't know. I've known you all these years and didn't know that aspect to your background. But I'm curious what perspective that gave you. You said you were able to build, you saw the good times, you saw the hard times.
Yeah.
How has that perspective really informed your role there on the sales and marketing side?
I tell people all the time, it's not when you get into the industry, it's when the industry gets into you. Mm-hmm. And really, that's when things start to change as far as your perspective. And when I started building an independent business, the reason why it happened is somebody came into the call center and said, "Hey, we're trying to generate leads. We're trying to get leads for our business." And I said, "Okay, great. Tell me what it is." And I actually turned it down because it was too small. They were trying to generate leads for their network marketing business. And I said, "Oh, guys, I don't know if we can do this." And then I started looking at more about the industry and what companies were growing and why. And then I heard about this consistent or residual income. And then I said, "Okay, well, let me explore this." So I decided to join. And that's when I started to build, and I roll very quickly. But as I said before, Wayne, I fell very quickly, just as fast as I grew. But I do think the perspective of, back then was really just, it was something new and it was something exciting. I didn't know what I was doing. And I think even today, a lot of people don't know what they're doing. And then when they come in, it's sheer excitement, or it's a friend made a referral and they're saying, "You know what, I'm going to try this product." Maybe it's a few $100 extra. And that's where I wasn't necessarily doing it for the money, but I was doing it to explore this idea of what this business, because I was an entrepreneur myself. And I heard a statistic, not too long ago. And I think this was from, I don't have the exact, I think this was from McGraw-Hill. And this was a few years back. And so now I'm sure it's changed a lot, but they said this. They said that the next 100 people that you see driving down the road, in grocery stores, walking your dog at night, the next 100 people that you see, 70 of them are thinking about starting a new business, a business on their own. And this was just several years ago. So I'm sure the statistics are even greater now. But back then, I don't know if people were really thinking about it to the level they are today. And I think once you get into it and you start to explore entrepreneurship and you start to see, even at the smallest levels where I was at, you start to realize that people need tools. They need the training. They need the guidance. And I always tell people that the principles, even in 2001, the principles, even for the last 100 years, probably haven't changed a whole lot. The principles of connecting with people, offline or online, the principles of setting up appointments, the principles of follow-up, or doing presentations, and then follow-up, and attending events, leading by examples. Those principles have stood the test of time. The tactics are always changing. And back in 2000, I didn't have Facebook, I didn't have Instagram, I didn't have any social channels. We barely had, we were on the cusp of cell phones. And so it was just connecting with people that I knew. It was going out to homes and so forth. But the principles are still the same today as they were back in 2000. Those principles are the same as they were in 1950. those principles have stood the test of time, but the tactics are always changing. And that's what's happening today, is the tactics are changing. And we have to adapt as an industry. We have to.
Absolutely. What an incredible experience that you were able to get that perspective as an independent business owner. I think one of the most important traits for anyone in sales and marketing to have is empathy, to be able to put yourself in the shoes of your customers, your distributors, to really understand, their needs and wants. And that gets back to the principles are the same. I think those motivators, those drivers are absolutely the same. And I'm sure if we did look right now, the statistic would be greater as far as the number of people that want to start their own businesses that have that entrepreneurial spirit, which again, I think positions us so well to really be able to deliver on that and to attract more and more people into the channel. So I love that you said that principles stay the same, but the tactics always change. You have been on the absolute front lines of these tactics, of these principles for really the last 25, or 30 years now. And you've spent your career there in sales and marketing, and you've been able to see some of these huge shifts in the tactics, in the culture, in the approach surrounding it. I'd love to dig in on some of these and get, tap into some of that perspective. What do you feel are some of those biggest changes or evolutions that have happened, within the direct selling channel?
Well, Wayne, I
know that's a big question. I know that's a big.
It's hard to narrow it down, but if I were to narrow it down to just a few, I would say things that come to mind are, when I think about it, when I was going into the industry, we were very focused in on what we did really well. And I would say today, when you think about it, we used to be the only shop in town when it came to really, I thought back then, and for years, we were the only shop really that could do direct sales or entrepreneurship the way that network marketing did it. There was no other. I mean, it was fascinating. People were coming in and they were learning about this, and then people heard about it more. But truly, it was a one-stop shop where we were the only game in town. Yes, we had competitors in the industry, and you would hear the big boys of the New Skins of the world, the Herbalife of the world. But most part, that was our competitors. And we were the only shop. I mean, people were hearing us and they were like, oh yeah, let's learn more about the company. Today, it's just so much different. I heard something the other day where, these companies like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, they have this saying that, death by 1,000 cuts. And what they were saying was these small little companies were coming in and they were cutting into their profits because they were better at segmenting and getting into the right channels. And I think overall, we didn't have to worry about that, and today it's completely different. I mean, today our competition is so far reaching. It's out there. There's more sources. Our customers and consumers are more educated than ever before. They can find information before. The evolution of being the only shop in town has changed. And they can search your company faster and dispel or come up with myths immediately that we never had to face before from back when I started. I think the other several things that are different than even just when I started to where we are today, technology. There's no doubt that the way people shop, the way people find information or find about you as a company, it's just changing. Mobile platforms, people were saying, well, now it's mobile first. And now companies are saying, just from 3 years ago, they're saying mobile first to mobile only. So technology is changing from SEO to paid advertising. Listen to our language now from when we were back then. We were talking about auto dialers back then, and now we're talking about web campaigns and paid search and so forth. I mean, it's just crazy. But I think one of the most significant things and the difference between today and even 5 years ago or back in 2001 when I joined is data. Data is everywhere and we all have to use it. And here at Plexus, we are so consumed with data and what the data is telling us and how we're using the data to help us make the decisions. And the data as far as segmenting and order basket and reorder rate. And I mean, we're talking with our regional sales teams about it and how that data is impacting leaders in certain areas as far as rank advancements and repeat enrollers or signups. it's just crazy how much data is really impacting it. Any significant business in this industry is going after it and finding it as much as they can. But I think we're a little bit behind, to be honest with you. We're playing catch up in that data side. And then regulation is another area that, years ago, we could talk about checks, we could talk about cars, we could talk about homes, getting out of debt, not frivolous, but more,
sure,
we could share that
within the guidelines. Yeah.
But today it's even much different than what it was back then.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on all of those changes as well. I may add one more as we kind of get into some of the discussion a little bit more. But regarding the competitive landscape, I do think that is one of the most significant changes we've seen. I think we felt a little bit isolated from some of the competitive sets that, we didn't compete on shelf, but now, we compete within the scroll. Our products are going to be right next to someone else's in a completely different channel. And so our consumers, as you mentioned, with the technology, have access to that information like never before. So our competitive landscape has completely changed. I think one of the interesting aspects of that is I feel like, we've spent a long time trying to understand what some of the other channels, the retail, wholesale, CPG companies do. And now with that technology that you've talked about, we really have the ability to play that same game, to reach out and create awareness, to reach out and convert customers, to convert, potential distributors or independent business owners into business owners. What's interesting is, as I look at the flip side, and maybe this is a competitive moat, and with technology, it doesn't, no competitive moat ever lasts too long anymore. But I feel like they're struggling to really leverage these, social communities, these social connections, the way that direct selling have.
Right.
So I think we do have an ability to really kind of combine these best of both worlds, where they're still figuring out how do we manage influencers and affiliates and these kind of, independent individuals that share information and share and communicate our brand. It's something that we've been doing for about 100 years. So I'm really excited about that, even though, again, the competitive landscape is wildly different than it was just a few years ago.
Well, and best, the great thing about your experience, Wayne, is that you've sat on both sides. You know that retail side, and now you've been in direct sales for so long that you see it. And that's where I think our direct sales channels, we have to start exploring even the talent outside of the industry to say, what's happening? Why are they growing? And why is that talent why should we be paying attention to talent, not just within our channel, but how do we expand? So we elevate those within our business. We also look for external talent to help us evolve into where we're going. I think it's so critical on what's happening and the changes that have taken place over the last, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years.
Absolutely. I'm going to echo what you mentioned about technology. I do feel as a channel, we are farther behind. And this is something that is moving more and more rapidly. It is something that every channel and every company kind of struggles and wrestles with a little bit. I'll tell you an interesting kind of experience just from this morning, which once again reinforces it's a very small channel. So I was at Starbucks meeting with the head of marketing from one direct selling company, and the head of marketing from another direct selling company comes in, and they recognize us and they come over. But within the conversation, they were talking about how they're just about to launch this kind of new e-commerce platform to finally make it easy for their customers to purchase product. And they said and I asked, and they said it's been about a 3-year slog trying to get this out. And I'm curious, where do you feel companies should focus their efforts from evolving some of the technologies? They can't do everything. Implementations can take a long time. But what are like the 1 or 2 things that if you're sitting in a prioritization meeting, you're going to say, we need to put all of our efforts and resources towards A and B?
Well, that's a great question. Tough question. To me, as you start to think about this and where we're at today at Plexus and as an industry, and what we're doing here right now is we are putting a lot of effort and a lot of money, a lot of budgetary dollars, on revamping our infrastructure here from our technology standpoint. And I can tell you, and I know just being in the industry so long, a lot of companies, Wayne, they have a lot of technical debt. There's so much technical debt that they have to fix in order to even get to that spot of saying, okay, we have to upgrade our digital platforms. But unless they fix that technical debt, they're not going to be able to provide or partner with other on-the-shelf platforms to bring them in. And the API integration is going to be difficult because the old technical debt is there. But I would say this, the digital landscape, we're investing a tremendous amount in the digital side of the business. Marketing has changed so much where we were writing campaigns and flyers and everything else and putting it out there and putting it in the box and so forth. And now digital, as far as, and let me give a little bit more specific as far as, we did recently we did an NPS score. We did a survey of all of our customers. We wanted to know what the Net Promoter was saying. What was the Net Promoter score for us? And we found out that our retail customers were telling us that our back office was at this percentage. It was a low percentage, and it wasn't that we were shocked, but we were like, wow, they're not happy with where they're at and the experience that they're going through. We also did a Net Promoter score on our valued customers, what we call VIP customers, from the time, enrolling, that experience, going to the website, learning about information, going to where they need to go. And then our independent business builders, what we call brand ambassadors. Overall, the Net Promoter score came back, and it was very clear, Wayne, that our focus needed to be so much around consumer-centric platforms versus a product platform. And don't get me wrong, product focus is extremely important for us. But if we don't get that right, and they can't shop with us, or we don't make it easy, simple, and easy for them to refer, we're out. So that consumer-centric focus for us right now is a major piece for us. And I think for the industry, we have to really sit down and say, okay, what is really important for us? And as we did that Net Promoter score, we started to learn a lot more. Not that we didn't know it, but it was just a reinforcement and just, I guess, a direct hit in the face to say, you've got to correct this. And I think a lot of companies in this channel are probably facing the same things. And based on your conversation with these two marketers, they're going down that same path of saying, hey, this e-commerce, as far as order basket, as far as load speed time on websites, as far as abandonment rate, all of those things, we have to say, is that consumer centric, and are we making it easy for them? We are definitely taking a look at that. But I want you to know, I say this, it's like we know it, but it's a lot harder to implement. But we have to tackle it.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I was kind of crossing my fingers here, hoping you were going to say exactly that, because that's been my experience as well. I think our distributors over time, they're able to adapt and kind of accommodate to our systems and platforms. The deeper you get into a brand, the more friction you're going to tolerate, you're going to allow. It's just going to become second nature to you. Customers and prospective customers will not tolerate any friction in the sales process, or in especially kind of even upstream on just gathering product information and starting to see, what different solutions or brands are even out there. So I would agree with you 100%. If I were advising anyone in the direct selling space, I would say you've got to get your consumer platforms, your e-commerce platforms up to date, as frictionless and seamless as every other platform or website that we purchase from. Or I really do feel in a few years, if we don't, those companies will be irrelevant. They'll be left behind. Completely. And just from, based on the conversation today, if it's, potentially 18-month, 24-month, 3-year project or implementation, we got to do now. We absolutely have to go now. And I know we're going to hear more about that in a little bit. But so you've been leading sales and marketing for really your entire career. As the head of sales and marketing, how has your role changed or evolved over the last 3 to 5 years? With these changes, these tactics changing, how has your role changed?
Yeah, I think about this, and there's, I think of 3 or 4 areas that this changed as far as the head of sales and marketing. One is talent. The talent, as far as what you're looking for, where you're finding that talent, especially today in the COVID environment where people are working from home. But I think the talent that is required in order to be where a company needs to be. You really have to start thinking about the talent that you're hiring, not just say, hey, well, this person has 10 years of experience inside the channel. That is extremely important. We're always going to be doing that. But there's some talent outside that now, as you said before, in the e-commerce space that we can learn from. And so we're seeing people who are bringing in new expertise, subject matter experts in certain areas that we haven't been familiar with before. And their thought process coming in is saying, have you thought about this? There's different ways as far as how you think about this. And these are the angles you need to take in order to get there. It's been crazy. It's, I think we have to be abundance in our thinking versus the scarcity. And oftentimes what I found in this role is that when we have this abundance mentality, we're open to this and saying, okay, let's listen to what's going on. Why are we, instead of the scarcity, saying, why, this is the way we've always done it. And this is the how we've done it in the past. And this is what the leadership has always felt like we need to do. But that is not abundance thinking. And so I think one is talent. The talent that's coming in is certainly evolving. We should require more about where we're going as an industry, and then what is being demanded by the consumers. The consumers are telling us every single day where we should be going and who we should be hiring. I think the other thing is alignment. Within a direct sales, oftentimes there's been these silos. Certain departments are here. This is your job. This is your job. This is your job. This is your department's role. And I think today, with how fast things are going, I think alignment is more important than ever before. Over the last 5 years, I've seen it evolve, and I've seen where silos, have really hurt organizations. And I think, I believe that today, if there's more alignment with sales, marketing, customer service, even operations, IT, it's all coming together, and we all need to be aware of that, because if we're truly going to be a consumer-centric organization, every one of us need to be involved in the organization about how we're going. It's very difficult to do, but I think we have to think about that. The third would be in role of sales and marketing, messaging and positioning. I think about this. It's messaging and positioning on our branding and offerings, especially in this channel, Wayne. I think before it was very network marketing driven. It was rank advance. It was doing all of this, bonuses, and today the messaging and positioning from 5 years ago is so much different, and it has to be very, very focused, very clear, very direct, very action oriented. But it has to be where it's relative to the audience that you're trying to attract. And I think that those are areas, I would say right off the top of my head, that those areas are very, very important to me.
The discussion around messaging, positioning, and skill sets, I think there's a lot of correlation there. First off, I agree. There's completely new skill sets. A lot of these positions that we've hired now didn't even exist a few years ago. So, looking for someone with 10 years experience in, a certain technology or application, I mean, it's never going to happen because it wasn't even around. So we do have to, I think, be a little bit more flexible with people with maybe even fewer years experience in some of these areas, but it might be really, really deep and really significant. And so this kind of like tenured, march, this track to, you're going to go manager and senior, like just get people in that understand, that speak this language, that speak the consumer's language. And as it relates to the messaging and positioning, I think that's been another huge shift as well for, that I've seen on the marketing side, where we were great at marketing to a channel. It was almost like marketing didn't start until, a distributor signed up. And then, okay, now let's lead them through the distributor journey. Let's give them the assets, the videos, the collateral, these other things that they need to go and market the product for us. And that is completely shifted now. Now we have the ability to go create awareness, to convert customers, to help manage that relationship in partnership with our distributors. But I found that from kind of a consumer facing, almost a CPG angle, there wasn't a lot of kind of deep experience in marketing around the ability to really position and message and market products. Yeah. We were great at the opportunity. And so this is something that I think that everybody in, every marketing department within direct selling needs to focus on that consumer mindset to really gain that. And it could be from reading, it could be podcasts, it could be going to conferences. But we've got to get really good, really fast at marketing and positioning and messaging our products and really getting across why someone would buy our products versus something else in the competitive set.
Yeah. Wayne, I don't know. I heard this before, and I think about what you just said. Not all the best products sell the most. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some great products out there. The best marketed products with the right positioning and messaging, those products they're flying off the shelves. They're flying off the online sales. And some companies you can see it. They're good. They're very, very good about that positioning and messaging. And I think we all know it. It's just how we get in there and do this and really, get the, as I said before, the right talent who is aware of that and what other companies are doing and who are leading the charge. We can learn from that and become even better. We're such a great industry. And what you said before, we have what they don't have. We have that community and that awareness with our friendships and relationships with people. This is what direct sales is all about, but we have to harness that messaging and really start to catapult our offerings to the unaware audience that's out there.
So you talk a lot about the importance of alignment, breaking down these silos, which are going to help all of us move faster to acquire the right talent. How do you go about doing it? I know you said it's easier said than done. Is there a framework? Is there a process, an approach that you like to follow that can really help kind of blur the lines between these different functional silos?
Well, we're learning. It's not. I certainly don't have a system that I think everybody has to have their own system inside their organization. I think it starts from the top down, where we have to say, okay, what is it that we want, and where are we going? I think we have to have clear direction of what it looks like. And for us, as we look at this consumer-centric mentality, then we start to say, well, if that's the case, then what does that look like from a operations standpoint, and how they flow into this? How does this look like in marketing and sales, IT, customer service? So everybody, including the human resource department, everybody has to play a role in this. And I think, for us, what we've really worked hard on at Plexus, and I think a lot of companies are, is we've had monthly meetings where we're talking about, hey, this is where we're going. This is the industry in which we're in. This is what the landscape looks like and how we play in this. And we started to evolve into a much more agile system approach, where you get people involved with different departments, where you might have a project or a focus, and you're bringing in people from all different departments to say, okay, what's the play in this, from finance to legal to operations, and everybody has a voice, versus sales coming in and saying, okay, here's the project, here's what we'd like to do, and then everybody comes in waves. It's just too slow. It's too slow. And so, we're learning this, but you really have to have from the top down to say, hey, are we prepared for this? Because in the old traditional ways, that would have worked, where sales comes in with a campaign, marketing develops a campaign. Okay, then now we're going to go to IT, develop the program. Okay, so is legal okay with it? And it just keeps going and going and going. Well, it takes months to get a campaign off. And today's and the agile systems that we're trying to put in place today, everyone's involved from the get-go, and people are weighing in, and it helps. Certainly we have a lot of areas of improvement, but this is the approach I think more and more companies are taking today, is becoming a lot more agile and eliminating those silos where everybody's involved at the beginning of the
Yeah, I totally agree. I love that you said making sure that everybody's involved, that everybody has a seat at the table. And it reminds me of the last podcast we interviewed Lynn, the CEO of Princess House, and she was talking about going through that kind of annual or even more 2 and 3 year kind of vision planning, and making sure that all the functions were represented there, so that everybody had the shared objectives, the shared revenue goals, recruitment goals. And so I thought that was really important, as you both have mentioned and reinforced, to make sure that everybody's represented and there's that kind of shared goals and shared objectives. I really love that. So talking a little bit about the consumer, how has your sales or marketing structure changed to really address the needs, wants, desires of the consumers more? Has it changed? Have you had to, bring in dedicated resources that focus on both the distributor experience and the customer experience, or are kind of, those same resources really kind of diffusing their focus and attention across both audiences?
When I think about distributors, as far as like bringing them into this channel and this thought process of consumer-centric, it's not that we're moving away from the traditional ways of talking with our leaders and distributors about, hey, here's what we're doing. But I would say this, we had this notion of give it a shot. We know that if we start talking with our business builders, they're thinking, I got to find the next business builder. I have to find the next business builder. I got to grow. But the reality is, when we start to lay out the data for them, when we start looking at the data as far as, the consumers coming into the business, the referral rate, the order basket rate, we start to look at that and we're saying, okay, here's where it's at. And they're seeing data that they hadn't seen before. And they're saying, wait a minute, you're telling me that by keeping these customers in the business as long as you're talking about makes that much of a difference. And it's huge, Wayne. It's massive. Now I will say this, with the distributors, one of the things that we're finding is we're not able to share as much as we once did. And what I mean by that is, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier, Wayne, but where distributors are having a little bit hard time, and we've talked to them about this, where we were, even just a few years ago, we were talking about cars, the houses, the money. Yeah. I remember when somebody would hold a check on the stage, and we'd have all the disclaimers up and making sure that it was done tastefully, but it's changed. And now we have to start saying, okay, well, how are we working with our distributors, and what is really most important? How do we help them evolve their business in a way where they're talking about the consumer, and they're doing it in a way where they're keeping high retention rates, they're driving business, but they're doing it in a way where people understand it. And so I will tell you that, we have taken a tremendous amount of effort into our training program with our consumers and our business builders. And now we have, I guess I would say, a roadmap, a true roadmap of training at different standpoints with our distributors and our consumers as far as where they're at and how we segment out. I think it's important for us. I mean, and how we do this, and then we've started to think about this as far as the data. And this is where I was reading some statistics, and this is what it said. The percentage of college graduates has increased by 11%, while student debt has increased by 160%. Those under 35 years of age, net worth has decreased 34%. And now we're starting to say, okay, wait, who are we attracting from a consumer and from an entrepreneur standpoint? When you think about the people and where they're shopping and how we connect with the consumer and the business builder, it's much different. And we need to ask more questions. We at Plexus, we probably have, I think it's 12 or 13 focus groups. Maybe it's 12 or 13 focus groups of different leaders, consumers. And every month we have groups of people that are listening in, more so than, I never did that before. We had our top advisory board, but the amount of focus groups that we have right now, as far as listening to what's happening with the consumer and what's happening with those business and what their needs are today, are so different than where it was before. And so when you think about what we're doing with, with our distributors today versus what we were doing before, it's different in the way that we're listening to a lot more, in a lot more different ways. And the amount of people that we're talking with is just crazy. It's, it used to be 5 or 6 people. We're listening to this board and we're in this boardroom writing all these things down. Now it's just constantly feedback, and the data and the resources that we're putting into it is changed a tremendous amount.
I love that you're putting such a great emphasis on gathering those insights from customers and distributors. You talk about the importance of data, but so many companies are awash in data. Most of it probably ends up on the proverbial cutting room floor. It doesn't even get used. And so there's that, the cliche or the saying, the data rich, but information poor. And I think even digging in on some of the qualitative aspects around data research and ethnography are those focus groups, continually understanding needs, wants, and desires of the consumer. I think in today's world, that's the only way that you're really going to be able to succeed is truly understand, kind of getting back to that empathy that we talked about a little bit earlier. And I think it's really important that you talked about, when it's customer or distributor. It's really and, not or.
Yeah.
That we have both. You've talked about segmentation earlier in this podcast. The importance of being able to speak to each, to deliver distinct messages to each audience is vastly important. I want to drill a little bit deeper on, you talked about kind of some of the conversations with maybe some of our distributor leaders that have been in the business a long time, or maybe been in the channel, maybe even potentially at multiple companies, versus those that are coming in today. You talked about the cars, you talked about the checks. There was more of a focus on the opportunity side, on the income side. It sounds like it's something that even kind of made its way to you as an initial, IBO, back in the day. How has today's distributor changed? How is it different from the distributor of 10 years ago? I mean, again, we touched on opportunity focus, but how are their needs, wants, and desires different from those of 10 years ago?
I would say response time, I'll break it down pretty simply. Response time, barriers of entry, they're content hounds. They're wanting content, and versus before, where we were working with these distributors from the past, it was like, hey, give us the information. They were all in. They understood that they went to a certain library online. They learned about the products. Well, today, I would say, their ability to shop with you around the clock is just, they want it. So the consumers, the distributors today are saying, hey, we understand you're going to work with us, but we need to make sure that our teams they have shopping around the clock. They have content that's available to them that's easy to find. Where's the resource library? We need mobile platforms, where before it was like, hey, we need an app. Today it's no, they want mobile platforms that can do their business, where they can do their business. They can share products. They have shopping available. They can share information. It is so important today, where before these distributors, they were out pushing like crazy. And I think the expectation, Wayne, I will say this, the expectation has changed a lot with these distributors, where before we would say, okay, here's the promotion, and we would announce to the leaders, and then they would go promote it. And not that the leaders are lazy today at all, not that the leaders aren't doing the job, but I think now more than ever, it's our responsibility as business owners, as businesses in this industry. We have to take that responsibility on more than ever before. We can't rely on our leaders to go out and just push it out there. We have to find the right channels, the right mediums, the right messaging, the right positioning. We have to take that ownership, where even just 5-6 years ago, we were saying, if we do a good job in getting it to leaders, they will do it and they will just run with it. That isn't the case anymore. We need more internally of doing that and making it happen. I think the experience for them, as far as the leaders, what's important to them, and understanding these focus groups, but the distributors from the past were a lot more, I guess I would say, a lot more lenient on what we were providing, and today's distributors are a lot more demanding. And it isn't that they're saying we're doing a bad job. It's just that
I love it. They want more.
They're so high. They're so high. So it's much different environment today.
I absolutely love that. You touched on a couple of things. One was a lesson I really learned the hard way there in a direct selling company, but you talked about their need for content. And that's something that, as a marketer, and I spent time on the agency side. So like, brands to me were sacred, and I have to make sure everything's consistent across all touch points. And, Jesse Lee Ward and I talked about the difference between command and control versus engage and empower. And again, it used to be the marketer was more command and control. Here's the few assets, and they were finished. You can't deviate from any of these templates or these assets. And now it's engage and empower. And this was one of the biggest learnings for me, and the biggest shifts is I'm going to give them everything I have. Where I used to reserve the best photographs, the best, footage from videos, I would keep it for corporate pieces. And now I'm like, give them absolutely everything. Let them go run with it. We can't even keep up. We can't try to keep up with them. All we can try to do is put enough tools in their toolbox and help encourage them to run. So that's a lesson that I think is so important. And that, again, I unfortunately, it took me a little bit of time. I feel like I'm a fast learner, but it took me a minute to learn. And my philosophy has completely changed on that.
Well, I think you're right. I think, and I love that as far as, give them the content and empower them. But I will say this, if there's one thing that I hear from leaders today versus what I was hearing before is, where's the content? Where's the content, Travis? Give us the content. We'll share it if you help us with that content. And some of them are masters. They're marketers themselves, but we have to continue to work on that and provide the right messaging, the right positioning in that content so that they can use that in their business build.
Absolutely. And I think the assets don't have to be in the final form. Again, back in my day, we even made 14-minute videos and spent way too much money and, traveled the world. And now it's like, just give them clips, give them 6 seconds, 15s, 30s, 60s, give them clips, give them footage. They're going to do something better with it. You'll have a much better outcome, really just handing it over to them in a lot of ways. Yes, you're going to need some core pieces, some anchor pieces just to help kind of solidify and anchor the brand. But beyond that, man, let's empower these new distributors as much as possible. We talked about the opportunity side. I do think the opportunity, and I want to clarify kind of my thoughts on this. The opportunity is just as important to today's distributors as past generations. They just sequence it differently. They lead with the product. And then once they have somebody that really loves the product, that's excited, that's passionate, that's engaged, that maybe is great at sharing information socially, that has a significant social following, they'll then convert those into the distributors. But they're all about the opportunity. They're just not going to lead with it and be as overt with it as maybe we were in the past.
Yeah. Well, and I agree with you. It's interesting. And you're right. I mean, if you look at what some of the past, it was a lot more in my experience where they were coming in, it was around the opportunity, it was around the dollars. And today, they're bringing in consumers, helping them along the way. And they're going to talk about the opportunities that are there, but it's a much different time. I mean, the companies in our industry and these leaders are aware. I mean, they're aware of the regulations that are out there with the FTC. They're aware of, what you can or what they're asking you not to say. And so they're a lot more cautious and they're a lot more reserved on pushing the big dollars. They are more open to sharing the opportunity, but in a way that is relative to that new consumer that's coming in and helping them than ever before. And so again, I think as companies, if we don't do our job in making sure that we're consumer centric and making it super easy to share the products, services that are available, then they're going to have troubles with it. And we have to make sure that we do that side of it. Where before we would provide an incentive and promotion and saying, here's your incentive and promotion, here's your trip. Right. They would get all excited and go. And yes, it still works today. But the reality is long term, we have to start thinking about, really that how we help them evolve in this new space of building a direct sales business.
100%. I totally agree. So I want to ask a very selfish question. So you've been on sales and marketing. So you've owned both functions, I think really in every instance. I really only managed the marketing side, except for a very short stint where it was kind of a battlefield promotion where they needed somebody to kind of manage both for a short period of time. I'm biased a little bit, but I'm curious your response. Do you feel that marketing and sales should be combined? Do you feel that they should be separated? And again, I guess what are kind of the pros and cons of the approach that you've been most familiar with having them combined?
Well, I think if you would ask me this question 10 years ago, I'm sales by nature, Wayne, and I would say no. Sales 10 years ago, leave sales in their role. They have to continue to drive and especially in this channel, let them go. Marketing, focusing in on the products, messaging, the marketing campaigns. Keep focused on those areas. Today, I would say this: after all of these years and seeing where it is today, I believe that we have, as an industry and where we're at Plexus, we need to be consumer centric. And I think it's critical. There should be no silos. There should be no silos. And I think I've been in experiences where the silos existed, and it wasn't that they weren't doing a good job. I think the industry has grown. You look at the industry, it's grown. But I think with sales, marketing, social selling, training, apps, platforms, consumer flow, the enrollment flow, real-time content. I think more than ever, in my opinion, they need to be working together. I think if you're going to run a strategy, for example, and you're trying to get a social selling platform, a strategy around social selling, marketing needs to have that say and coming in and say, okay, well, this is the wording, the positioning, and messaging around the company, the content, and the designs and so forth. And sales needs to say, okay, here's what we're hearing as far as how that social selling works. I do believe in the agile process more than ever before. I do think we all have to come together. It's difficult, and it even expands outside of sales and marketing. I mean, now we're incorporating customer service as far as the feedback that we're receiving from consumers that are canceling, consumers that are giving feedback, having issues with the boxes, the experience. I think if we, today more than ever, as far as what is being demanded of us and the platforms that we're dealing with, I do think that they have to be really combined at the hip and working together. I know there's been challenges where sales and marketing are two separate beasts. I was part of that years ago. I was like, sales needs to be separate, but everything from events, even events, I think they all have to be working together to say, is the message right? Are we saying the right things? What's the end in mind coming out of the event? On our website, are we using the words and the positioning in order to drive the right behaviors that we're looking for? So I guess to long-winded, I would say that in my belief, they need to be working together.
I love that. That wasn't long-winded. That was actually a ton of amazing information. And I think that echoes a lot some of my evolution, really even more recently. I always believed in the kind of inherent natural tension between sales and marketing is going to think a little bit more long-term, from the brand building aspect than kind of the immediacy of the sales. But I think you're right. More and more are being combined. I think that gets back to that alignment and breaking down the silos. I would even throw in digital. IT, I think, obviously can be separate. I think anything front-facing, consumer-facing, really should live with sales and marketing. It's just another way to communicate. It's just another channel for marketing. And I even agree on the customer service standpoint. And I know that I've kind of harped on this, I think, a few times on the podcast, but I completely agree. It is such an important brand touch point that often gets overlooked and not the credit that it deserves in sales, in retention, in revenue generation. Outside of the channel, probably my most recent outside experience was at a really fast growing D2C startup. And I was over brand marketing, and it wasn't even my choice. The owners put customer service, and they called it customer delight, into brand marketing because it was such an important touch point. And it was a great lesson for me. And it's really helped me to realize, I also think, back to your data and information, some of the best data we can find is sitting there in customer service. If I would encourage every exec, and this is something that we've done at different companies, every month, we're all super busy, take a lunch, go down and just put headphones on down in distributor support or customer support and hear the question, hear what's working, hear what the pain points are. There's an incredible amount of information that can be gleaned from just sitting on the phones and listening for an hour.
Yeah. Wayne, you make such a good point. And one of the things that we're doing here, we recently made a decision to, from customer service, we're changing the department name. We're adding some different elements to this group, and we're calling it customer success, the customer success department. So not only does it house the customer service side of the business, but we're also adding UX, UI, not from a digital standpoint, but from just a user experience. We're looking at adding a component for quality and CRM, and as far as the data and the return rates, we're looking at all of that customer success from the packages that are going out. This group is all about customer success, and that department, for us, we're evolving that. We're just starting that. So what you just said is so critical, and I don't think in the past it wasn't really thought of. It was just customer service, but now there's so much more to that, because the value proposition of a customer and the value, the dollar spent to attract new customers, you have to stay on it. So it's a very, very good point. I'm glad you shared that.
No, thank you. I'm so glad you guys are taking that approach and being so kind of customer service, customer experience driven. I know that it's going to pay dividends. Yeah. So I want to shift into my last couple of questions, more kind of on the leadership side. So you've had a great career. You've operated at the highest levels in the channel. What do you feel are some of the most important leadership lessons that you've learned?
Well, I was thinking about this. We actually had a similar topic just a couple of weeks ago with our management team here. And there are a few that I really I sat down and I started writing some of these down. And one is, if you want to manage, you have to measure. If you're not measuring it, you are not managing it. And I think, for me now more as I've thinking about that quote, and I learned that from somebody a number of years ago, but I thought about that. If you want to manage it, you have to measure it. And if you're not measuring it, you're not managing it. And I think that's the case today with data that's available. I think we have to really think about what we're trying to manage. And if we're not measuring whether it's marketing, it's campaigns, it's digital, it's online, it's web load speed, everything, if we really want to manage, we have to measure it. I think the other one that is important to me, Wayne, is the abundant mentality. More so today, as we talked about sales and marketing coming together, we can't manage through scarcity mentality. And I think that's where silos come in. And for me, the lessons, and I was there, I've been there where I'm like, you know what?
Sure. I was defending my turf,
Absolutely.
Vigorously defending my turf in the past.
We all do. And the more I've been in this industry, the more I'm like, how can we look at this from an abundant mentality standpoint, and versus a scarcity? And I would say the final two would be, Wayne, is good things happen with the decisions and activities that we make during bad times, tough times, and bad things happen with the decisions and activities that we make during good times. A good example of that was during COVID and the COVID rush, in 2020. I mean, it was crazy. The super growth, and a lot of companies started experiencing this growth, but they really understand where the growth was coming from. Was it just another cycle? And it was a time for us to say, hey, these are good times. Are we making the right decisions and activities so that when tough times come or it starts to slow down, that we're doing the right things? And I think it's important for us to keep that in mind. And I hope people realize that, right now this first quarter is happening in 2022, and is it a good time? Is it a bad time? And we have to be thinking every cycle of the business. And if it's a good time, are we making the right decisions for the future? And if it's a tough time and you're going through some struggles right now, and companies do, yeah, are you making the right decision and activities to move forward? So those are some of the things I've learned.
Yeah, I love that. I wrote all those down, and to your point about the last couple of years, I was so impressed. And as a direct seller, so proud of our channel with how quickly we adapted during 2020 and 2021. And I think now, to your point, with making more of the long-term decisions and making sure they're the right ones, how do we ensure that was the new baseline, that's the new go forward point, that we retain all the amazing people that were introduced to direct selling, that joined and had our products and shared our products. How do we keep them? How do we continue to grow? Really powerful. To that point, my last and final question, I promise, is the last one. So okay. Looking down the road, 3 to 5 years, where do you see, with all of the changes in tactics but still all the things that stay the same, those principles, what does direct selling look like 5 years from now?
I'm so excited. I really, truly, I'm so excited. I think I've heard some people say I'm fearful because what if Amazon changed their model? What if eBay changes their model? And they are. We don't have to even think about it. They are changing. They are trying to find ways that they can be more direct, like what we have in this industry. I truly believe that this industry over the next 5 years is going to experience a massive explosion. You think about what's happening with the economy and the shifts that are happening right now, and there may be a correction here soon. There's such opportunity for us to develop great products, great systems, an opportunity for those who choose to build an entrepreneur business. And I believe there's such an opportunity for these consumers to value the products that we're producing. There's some, I look at the industry, there's companies who have some amazing products. If we do our job in becoming more consumer centric and really managing the way we market, the way we sell, the way we position ourselves, we're gonna just, I really truly think that we can take on the biggest of the biggest if we work together and we start to evolve and challenging each other in ways that we never have before. But we're partners in this. I know we're competitors, but we're partners in success. So I'm so excited about where we're going. And I look at the other way. I know people are a little bit nervous about what's happening, but for me, I think the opportunities are so great.
That is the perfect spot to end on. I'm excited as well. Travis, thank you so much for your time today. I learned so much, so many amazing insights. Thank you for sharing your perspective on a lot of the shifts and changes that are happening. For all of the listeners, for some additional awesome information on shifts, on changes, on ways to help grow your business, make sure you're at Direct Selling University, April 20th and 21st. There's going to be more than 35 presenters, such as Travis. I know Tarl's going to be there. So Tarl's going to be the CEO of Plexus. He's going to be there on a panel. So make sure you register. Still a couple weeks left to do that. Would love to see you all there. Travis, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you for tuning in. We invite you to subscribe to the podcast so that you are the first to know when new episodes are available. And we hope you can join us for the DSN Global Celebration and DSU events next month, April 19th through the 21st at the Omni Frisco Hotel in Frisco, Texas. Make sure to check out DSU2022.com to register and to see the lineup of 35 presenters, including CEO of Plexus, Tarl Robinson, Mark Pentecost, CEO of It Works, and John Parker, West Region President and Chief Sales Officer of Amway, joining the stage together for a CEO panel discussion you definitely don't want to miss. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.